Please help me to reach 7,000 subscribers. Steel and glass gleamed under the pale sunrise as the city stretched awake below. On the rooftop of Horizon Dynamics, Maya Torres pressed her phone to her ear, voice clipped and urgent, heels clicking across concrete with every step. Today was supposed to be the day, a board meeting scheduled to decide the fate of her company, a contract offer that could double their operations overnight. Nothing could go wrong, except now everything was. The helicopter, a critical shortcut to the vendor's campus across the city, waited, fueled and ready. But the pilot, sweating and pale, clutched his stomach, apologizing between dry heaves. Maya's heart slammed against her ribs as she barked orders into the phone. Her team scrambled, scrolling through contacts, making frantic calls, but their desperate energy couldn't conjure another licensed pilot out of thin air. Each minute ticked by like a countdown to disaster. The board gathered at the rooftop, impatient and watchful, murmuring about Maya's signature no excuses reputation. Problems were supposed to solve themselves for Maya Torres. The fact they weren't felt like betrayal. That's when Eli Cruz stepped out of the shadowed corner carrying a battered toolbox and a mop, his worn boots leaving dusty prints on the rooftop tile. He looked out over the city, then at the helicopter, then at Maya. The board barely glanced at him, dismissing him as just another maintenance worker. Maya glanced at him, her jaw set, her eyes narrowed. "Do you know where you are, Eli?" Eli nodded, his gaze even. "I can fly that if you need." It was as if he'd spoken another language. The CFO snorted. The logistics manager laughed outright. Maya stared at Eli, the quiet man who fixed leaky pipes and cleaned up late-night spills, the last person she'd expect to speak up in a crisis. "Fly this machine?" she repeated, incredulous. "You!" No one was on Maya's side this morning. Maybe that's why she felt the urge to challenge. The same urge that had gotten her through every lonely step from intern to CEO. She folded her arms and spoke up, not caring how cruel it sounded. "Fly this helicopter and you'll get one wish." Any wish. The laughter intensified, board members betting under their breath how many seconds before he crashed or confessed he was joking. Eli didn't blink. He set down his toolbox with surprising calm. "You can laugh," he said quietly. "But if someone's dream matters enough, it's worth betting everything." The laughter faded. Eli's words cut sharper than Maya's challenges ever had. Have you ever had your dreams mocked by those with more power than you? If you know how it feels to stand alone, humiliated, fighting for something you believe in, comment below. Your story matters more than anyone's laughter. There's always one moment when giving up seems easier, but that's exactly when you stand taller. Maya tossed Eli the keys. The rooftop went silent. Board members exchanged uneasy glances. The pilot hesitated but nodded, surrendering to the chaos. Eli climbed into the helicopter without fanfare, his hands confident, his back straight. Maya stood at the edge, pulse racing, half tempted to call this off, but something in Eli's unwavering gaze stopped her. The rotors spun. The morning sun flared on polished steel. Eli's voice drifted from the cockpit, steady, controlled. Maya took a breath and slid into the passenger seat, her bravado faltering. The city shrank beneath them as Eli lifted the helicopter smoothly into the early light, leaving behind the jeers, the doubt, the broken dreams of everyone, except his own. Maya Torres hadn't always been steel and strategy. Once she'd been a scholarship kid with a head full of ideas and a heart too big for her own good. But ambition had a way of stripping softness away, layer by painful layer. The city never forgave the weak, and Maya learned, early and brutally, that the only way to survive was to control everything. Her business, her image, her heart. After her mother's death, Maya inherited everything except a map for grief. She filled the void with work and numbers, always one step ahead, always the first in the office and the last to leave. Her drive caught the eye of Lucas, brilliant, charismatic, and her match in wit. For a moment, Maya believed she could have partnership, success, and love. For a moment, she let herself dream that trust didn't have to hurt. But dreams were easier to mock than to keep. The day Maya was named CEO, Lucas left, unable to imagine standing in her shadow. Betrayal sharpened her, built walls where there had been windows. She didn't cry in boardrooms, didn't confide in colleagues, didn't let anyone close enough to see the cracks beneath her famous composure. Every meeting since then became a test of her armor. As the city woke below, Maya watched cranes sweep the skyline and thought about how buildings looked sturdy from the outside, how easily they crumbled in an earthquake. She stared down the boardroom table, her reflection fractured across polished glass. The board's faces were a gauntlet, some eager, some fearful, all waiting for a flaw to show. The contract on today's agenda could secure Horizon Dynamics' legacy for a decade, could define Maya's leadership, could make her vision for ethical aviation a reality. Winning meant everything. Losing meant more rumors, more whispers that the company needed a stronger hand. Alone in her office, Maya readied her pitch, arranging figures as if numbers could guard against fate. Outside, laughter snaked up from the staff lounge. Maya barely heard it, her mind drifting just for a second to a time when love felt possible and trust wasn't a weakness. She straightened and closed her binder, pushing the memory away. There was work to do, and nobody got anywhere by wishing for what couldn't last. Eli Cruz moved through the world with a quiet rhythm, careful not to draw attention. At Horizon Dynamics, he melted into the late-night shadows, fixing broken heaters, changing flickering lights always present, never seen. Staff sometimes nodded as he passed, but usually their eyes slid off him. Just another pair of work boots in a polished building. Beneath the plain uniform, though, Eli hid a different story. His hands, steady and precise, belonged to a man who had once cut through storms over open ocean, trusting his instincts and his training to save lives most people never heard about. Not so long ago, he was Lieutenant Eli Cruz, Coast Guard rescue pilot, a headline only inside his memory now, carefully packed away. The nightmare that drove him from the sky was stitched into every quiet gesture. He'd survived hurricanes and engine failures, launching from deck to deck, scanning waves for hope. Heroism had always seemed simple until the day it wasn't enough. A call late one stormy evening. A pleasure boat foundered, one passenger missing. By the time Eli reached the coordinates, he pulled too many bodies out of the water, all except the woman he loved. Tessa. His world broke in that hour. Tessa was gone, and so was her unborn child, swept away before Eli could save her. Nothing about flying felt free anymore. Eli left the rescue squadrons, withdrew from medals and ceremonies, and disappeared into ordinary work far from sea and sky. But even in silence, responsibility didn't leave him. His sister Anna was raising a disabled son on single wages. Eli took the night shifts to help, bringing Maddie to work when daycare fell through. Sometimes, after midnight, Eli would sit with Maddie in a quiet corner, sketching helicopters and imaginary machines onto stained napkins. Maddie's laugh, clear, hopeful, untouched by the world's cruelty, reminded Eli that maybe hope wasn't dead after all. If Maya ever noticed him, it was only in passing. She'd seen Eli head down, turning a wrench or mopping a spill near her office threshold. But his story was invisible, folded away like his medals. Only once did she pause, watching Maddie draw, the boy limping slightly, his brow furrowed in concentration. Eli handed Maddie a colored pencil and smiled, telling him, "Dream big, little man. The sky belongs to the brave." But for Eli, dreams were dangerous. Quiet was safe. Each day he faded into the halls, carrying secrets heavier than any toolbox, even as everyone missed the steady force he truly was. The morning air crackled with tension as Eli strapped himself into the pilot's seat, the entire rooftop watching in disbelief. Maya hesitated for a heartbeat at the helicopter door, her heart knocking hard in her chest. Below them, the board huddled uncertainly, some smirking, others anxious, nearly all expecting a disaster. Eli's hands moved quickly, familiar on the controls. The engine coughed, caught, and then the rotors thundered to life, vibrating through steel and glass. Maya climbed in beside him, masking her nerves with a deep breath. For the first time in years, her fate wasn't in her own hands. She braced herself, half expecting chaos. Instead, Eli's voice came through the headset. Calm and focused, a voice forged by storms and loss, soothing despite the swirl in her gut. The helicopter lifted with a gentle surge, so smooth Maya's doubts fell away. At least for a second, Eli banked west over the city, flying low and nimble, threading through the urban maze. Maya tried to find her words, but watching Eli made it hard. His attention never wavered, one eye on the horizon, one on the dials. Each movement an instinct, not a calculation. "Are you afraid?" Eli asked quietly, never glancing away. "I don't get scared," Maya replied, but her voice cracked. Eli didn't point it out. He just nodded. For a few minutes, silence filled the cabin. Los Angeles stretched below, and Maya began to understand she was in the presence of a true master, someone who moved through the world carrying heartbreak, yet gave everything anyway. For a moment, Maya forgot about the deal, the board, her lonely corner office. Suddenly, a gust rattled them, and Maya's hand shot to the armrest. Eli steadied the craft with a steady grip, answering her fear before she voiced it. Without warning, she found herself asking, "How did you learn to do this?" Eli's expression was unreadable. "Used to fly in storms," he said. "If you can save people in a hurricane, you can land anywhere." The journey ended in a soft touchdown, smoother than any commercial flight Maya had ever known. The rooftop crowd was silent, stunned. Maya stared at Eli with new eyes. Not a maintenance worker. Not a backup. Someone extraordinary, hiding in plain sight. Maya turned in her seat, tension breaking. "What's your wish, Eli?" Eli didn't hesitate. "Let Maddie see the city from above. He talks about flying every night." The rooftop erupted into whispers, not the promise of money or revenge or promotion, but a simple gift, given without calculation. Maya met his gaze and nodded. "Tomorrow. Bring him. That's a promise." The emotional moment pressed in. If you've ever longed for someone to believe in your dream, if you've ever needed just one person to give you a chance, tag them in the comments below. Tell them what it meant, because sometimes that chance changes everything. The city stood silent, morning sun dazzling the glass as two lives shifted course midair, one for possibility, one for a promise newly made. As news of Eli's rooftop flight traveled through Horizon Dynamics, Maya found herself at the center of a storm she hadn't planned for. Board members gathered in hushed circles, questioning her judgment with thinly veiled contempt. Some called her decision reckless. Others whispered about hidden liabilities and the risk to the company's reputation. The footage from rooftop cameras had already made its way onto phones and inboxes, Maya standing behind a janitor, trusting him with millions in assets. The backlash was swift. An emergency meeting was called, but Maya kept her composure, facing the board with proud silence. No one except her closest confidant, Lena, wondered aloud if maybe the company had missed something extraordinary. The rest wanted flattery, not courage. Later that night, Maya returned to her office, the city a blur of neon in the glass. But instead of closing her door to the world, she opened her laptop and began a quiet investigation. She searched for Eli Cruz's records, sifting through background checks, employment history, even social media archives. There was almost nothing, just a string of odd jobs, no college, no references, no drama. It was as if he'd erased his own past, but a forgotten news clipping buried in a local archive caught Maya's eye. There, Lieutenant Cruz, Coast Guard, rescuing dozens during a storm, credited with saving 3 children and a family from a sinking ship. Medal of Valor. The reporter's tone was reverent, the photograph grainy but telling. Eli, standing in front of a battered helicopter, eyes tired but steadfast, the pieces slid together in Maya's mind. A man carrying grief, running from praise, building a life in the shadows. Her heart twisted. How had she missed this force, this story, every day in her own building? She leaned back, uncertainty unraveling her usual certainty. Could she protect her position and risk everything on trust? Or should she step out? Gamble that people's worth wasn't just a line on their resume. Outside, the city pulsed restless, as Maya weighed the beginning of a leap that might cost her everything, or give her a chance at something much greater. The office hummed with the low buzz of late-night electronics as Maya lingered past midnight, restless and unable to sleep. From her window, she saw Eli in the break room, Maddie slumped on his lap, pale and flushed with a fever. Eli spooned up soup from a thermos, his movements gentle and patient, his words quiet. Instead of retreating, Maya drifted closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Eli looked up surprised but didn't brush her off. Maya sat beside Maddie, who barely looked up. She asked if he liked flying. Maddie nodded weakly, clutching a folded scrap of paper, a drawing of a helicopter colored outside the lines but full of hope. Eli confided that Maddie was having a rough night. The medicine hadn't worked and Eli was worried. Maya offered to call her personal doctor. Eli hesitated, pride warring with gratitude, but finally agreed as Maddie's breathing sharpened. Minutes later, the doctor arrived, checked Maddie, suggested rest and fluids. then disappeared as quietly as she'd come. Maya stayed, uncharacteristically silent, watching Eli hold Maddie close. Humming a lullaby Maya recognized from her own childhood. When Maddie fell asleep, Maya asked, "Why do you do so much for him?" Eli answered softly, "He's my family. He lost his dad. I lost Tessa. I promised him he'd never be alone." Maya stared at Maddie, his small hand curled around Eli's finger. "It's lonely, isn't it? Carrying all that?" Eli nodded, voice barely audible. "Sometimes I look at him and remember what it feels like to believe. Then I remember what it costs to lose." For the first time in years, Maya let herself cry. Not loudly, not with drama. Just silent tears that traced old scars. Eli sat with her, offering comfort only through presence. They shared stories, failures, heartbreak, the burden of leadership and love lost too soon. Hope bloomed between them in the shadowy break room, built not on shared victory, but on shared pain. Eli squeezed Maddie's hand. Maya squeezed Eli's. Together they sat, letting the night draw out all the truth usually hidden by daylight. Sunlight spilled into Maya's office the next morning as she watched Eli carry Maddie through the lobby, backpack slung across one arm, gentle urgency in every step. She waited until they passed, then called Eli in quietly. He arrived with careful composure, suspecting trouble, but Maya waved him to sit. She cleared her throat, nerves trembling behind her words. "Horizon's board wants new blood in our simulator program. Someone with real flying experience. I want you to help design it, Eli. We've wasted your talent long enough." Eli stared, conflicted. "I'm not a company pilot. I only wanted Maddie to see the sky." "You can be more," Maya replied, hope flickering. "This isn't about exposure. It's about building something real and giving Maddie and others a reason to dream." Eli hesitated, haunted by his failures. "I'm not sure I know how to start again. Every time I try, the past finds me." Before Maya could answer, Maddie entered, clutching a new drawing, a wild, messy sketch of 3 figures in a helicopter, sunlight bursting behind them. "Uncle Eli, I drew us flying. You, me, and Miss Maya." Eli knelt beside him, voice trembling. "It's beautiful, Maddie." Maya knelt too, her breath catching. "You know, maybe we really could fly together. Build something nobody else believes in." Maddie's wide eyes flashed anticipation. "Then you'll go with me when Uncle Eli builds it?" Maya smiled, tears lingering. "We'll build it together." Eli looked from Maddie to Maya, fear and hope battling inside. "If I say yes, I have to trust myself again," he said quietly. "Trust us." Maya reached for Eli's hand, gripping tight. Second chances aren't accidents. Sometimes they're earned in the hardest ways. For a moment, the world narrowed to 3 people, the past unable to hurt them, just the courage to try, and the future waiting to be written. Investor banners rippled in the warm wind, and a crowd of executives and engineers filled the stands at Horizon Dynamics' private airfield. Eli paced behind the helicopter, nerves coiling tight, Maddie at his side with wide, hopeful eyes. Maya approached wearing the headset. Her usual authority softened into worry and support. The test demonstration wasn't just routine, it would determine whether Horizon's bold new simulator program received the funding to launch, and whether Maddie's future care would be secured by the board's promised scholarship. Eli glanced at Maya. She nodded, her encouragement stronger than words. Maddie tugged Eli's sleeve, voice trembling with excitement. "You're going to be amazing. I told everyone you're the bravest pilot in the world." Eli smiled, squeezing Maddie's shoulder. He climbed into the cockpit, hand steady, but heart pounding. Maya's voice came through the headset, grounding him. "No matter what, just fly. We're all here for you." Eli strapped in, felt the morning sun warm his face, and closed his eyes for a heartbeat, letting memories of Tessa and past storms fade into focus. The rotors roared, the crowd fell silent. Eli lifted smoothly, climbing higher than nerves, higher than doubt. He moved through advanced maneuvers, precision turns, perfect hoverholds, sharp climbs, and dips, showing not just technical skill, but raw, passionate mastery. Maya moved with him from the ground, voice encouraging at every turn. The board watched, silent at first, then visibly moved. Eli finished with a dramatic full-circle sweep, touching down as effortlessly as breath. Maddie cheered from the front row, jumping up, waving his drawing in the air. Maya laughed through tears, pride and joy radiating. When Eli stepped out, applause filled the airfield, board members racing to shake his hand, investors nodding their approval. Maya wrapped him in a fierce hug, whispering, "You did it. You gave everyone here a reason to believe." Maddie ran into Eli's arms, voice ringing above the crowd. "That's my hero. You're really the best, Uncle Eli." Emotions welded together on the tarmac, pride, relief, hope. Maya joined them, her arm woven through Eli's, her gaze ready for the future. If you've ever watched someone you love defy the odds, shout them out in the comments. Who's your hero? And if you believe in second chances and new families, share this story with someone who needs it today. Sometimes one leap carries all of us higher. The aftermath of the demonstration swept through Horizon Dynamics like wildfire, and not everyone cheered. Maya's father, Antonio Torres, arrived at her office unannounced, shoulders stiff, voice steely as he closed the door behind him. He leveled his glare at Maya. "This can't happen. You're risking everything for a man you barely know. You're letting emotion cloud your judgment." Maya's hands trembled, but she stood her ground, fire in her eyes. "I'm not risking the company, Dad. I'm fighting for what's right. Eli's worth more than gold-plated resumes and empty promises. He saved lives, including ours." Antonio's anger flared. "I built this place so you'd never have to depend on anyone, especially not someone with scars he'll never shake." Maya's voice cracked, sharp with pain and conviction. "We all have scars, Dad. It's what we do for each other that counts. Eli has made this company better in a week than some have in a lifetime. If you can't accept that, I'll walk away. I'll build elsewhere. But I won't betray what I know is true." Silence stretched. Then, unexpectedly, Matty appeared in the doorway, clutching his drawing. He walked shyly to Antonio, holding it up. "Uncle Eli helped me when I was scared. He's always there for me. Can't you see that's what family means?" Antonio took the paper, silent, something softness breaking his cool exterior. He looked at Maya, then Eli, watching nearby with quiet resolve. Later that day, Antonio found Eli in the hangar. Words came slowly. "I was wrong. You saved my daughter's company and her spirit. Maybe you can help heal the rest of us too." He offered his hand. Eli shook it, relief in both their faces. Maya watched this moment unfold, hope blooming where fear once lived. She realized healing wasn't about forgetting pain, but about choosing to risk love again, even with everything to lose. As twilight blushed over the city, the helicopter rested on Horizon's rooftop, its silhouette etched against a sky streaked with violet and gold. Maya, Eli, and Maddie sat side by side beneath the open doors, eyes fixed on the light sparking to life below, hearts full of the kind of peace that only comes after a storm. Eli passed Maddie a set of pilot's wings, the tiny badge shining in the last light. "For courage," he said, pinning it to Maddie's shirt. Maddie grinned, pride radiating, hugging both of them with arms too small to hold all this love at once. Maya glanced at Eli, her voice trembling, softer than he'd ever heard it. "All my life I thought building something meant stacking victories on top of pain. But I was wrong. It's about who stands with you when the sky darkens, who makes you believe you can fly again." Eli turned, searching her face for any hint of doubt, but there was only hope and the gentle light of something new. He reached into his jacket and drew out a simple ring, engraved with 2 initials and a sunrise. He knelt, hands shaking only a little. "I once thought flying meant never landing, never risking your heart. But you and Maddie, you're my landing place, my family. If you'll have me, I want to spend every day proving it." Maya felt tears spill, happiness fierce and fragile. "Yes, Eli, yes, 1,000 times yes." Maddie leapt into her arms, shrieking with laughter. She said yes. "We're a real family." Eli pulled them close. The 3 of them nodded together, their scars and hopes woven into something strong. Above, the city hummed. The world felt endless. Maya pulled Eli up, smiling through tears. "Let's fly once more." They climbed into the helicopter, Maya in the passenger seat, Maddie behind them, his drawing taped to the dash. Eli started the engine, each vibration a promise that no dream is too broken to mend. As they lifted off, Maya reached for Eli's hand. Firm, warm, steady. The city fell away. All that mattered was the sky and the family they'd fought so hard to become. If this story reached your heart, tell us below. Who's the hero in your family? Who picked you up when you thought you'd never rise again? Share this with someone you believe in. Because together we climb higher, toward hope, toward healing, toward home.